Very small content which will be labeled as made by humans, which become very precious. That, hey, this is actually made by humans. So you will create a premium on that content. But there are still a lot of startups in India who only look at India as a market and or look at US as a market. Klarna came in and wrote this entire thesis that, you know what, we are going to fire most of our customer support. 50% of customer support is being fired.
Looking at customer experience holistically today, how do you think that will evolve in the future?
This episode is brought to you by Super Checkout, the world's first AI-powered checkout that lets you split, combine or co-pay with friends and family in real time. Whether it's shopping, gifting or travel bookings, now everyone can chip in with ease. Check out smarter with Super Checkout.
The Hustle Group Company. Let me introduce you to the Hustle Group Company. It's a lifestyle brand that's redefining streetwear through the power of fashion, self-belief and resilience. The second one being Discover Dollar, which is an AI-driven tech company that helps brands and retailers recover hidden dollars from overpayments and leakages. DocsNow's intelligent platform empowers businesses of all sizes to rapidly collect, manage, govern and collaborate on the data front, transforming your documents and making sure there's an impact on the business bottom line, all in a secure and a single environment.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm here in Singapore and welcome to another very short segment. I have someone very interested in me who has redefined a lot of different perspectives and created impact in the space of conversation, social media, fields of consumer experience and so on and so forth. He's an incredible leader. I'm very glad that Arvinder, thank you so much for joining me today and giving me time. Arvinder Gujral, please.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate your time and thanks for coming down to Singapore.
Thank you. No, it's my pleasure. It's a fantastic city. And I wanted to have this chat with you for a lot of wisdom and yarn. And of course, you're recording a small bite of a lot of yarn that you've already given me. But I wanted to give this, make sure that this goes out to a lot of people out there as well. And they get to learn from you as well. For people who do not know, Arvinder has been the ex-managing director of Southeast Asia for Twitter. He was the first employee of Twitter back in the day and in India. And he's been able to scale it up across APAC, right? So fantastic to meet you. Bunch of things, right? We'll start with social media. Considering that things are changing quite significantly over the last few years, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Today, in today's day and age, with the evolving AI, generative AI, and so on and so forth, it's almost impossible to distinguish between human-generated and AI-generated content. I mean, if you do a Turing's test, I'm sure it's going to go way past. Even with discerning eyes, you're not able to differentiate between that content. So, this 5 quick questions that I wanted to ask you. The first one would be, how has social media evolved with AI and how safe is it anymore?
Okay, so let me take it in 2 parts. So how has social media evolved and safety of social media, right? Let me take the second part first, because that's easy. The safety of social media is not dependent on AI. The safety of social media depends on the people who create content and people who consume content.
Right.
That will not change irrespective of where the content came from. Whether the content was created by a human being or created by a human being using AI.
Right.
The ethos of safety of the content, because if someone has a bad intent, they could have created that content even without AI, because fake news is not new. It did not need AI to proliferate. Across countries, across geographies, across political spectrums, you have been consumed and created on fake news forever.
Right.
In fact, if you watch a documentary, fake news was even used during World War II, World War I, toppling of democracies, by creating fake narratives, and it has happened in kingdoms, in wars that have been fought before.
Right.
So, AI can only, I would say, accelerate creation of content which may not be kosher.
Right.
But bad content or good content will always come. The only thing AI will do is only accelerate the amount of content being created.
Makes sense.
And then it comes to now how will it change social media? It will change social media to the extent that the amount of content that we are consuming now, we will be thrown a lot more content to consume. What happens when you have to read 1 book in a day? You will read it. When you read 10 books in a day, you will skim it.
Right.
When you read 50 books in a day, you will want somebody to give a summary of it. When you have to read 100 books in a day, you will say somebody give me one bullet point for each book.
Right.
So I know what the book's ethos is all about.
Makes a lot of sense.
This is what's happening in social media. Until what will happen? With the amount of content that will multifold, because AI will help you generate more, you as a consumer will have shorter attention span. So that's the second order effect.
Right.
We anyways have what is a proverbial attention span of less than a goldfish, which is 6 seconds. Can you imagine now us having an attention span of 4 seconds or 3 seconds?
Wow.
Because we've gone down from movies to episodes from episodes to clips on social media, on Insta and others.
Right.
And we are finding even those large enough that, hey, I can't watch the whole clip. Can I even make it shorter?
Right, very true.
And so this is an unfortunate being, because what you do is long form conversations
Right,
of an hour plus,
right.
which will become a rarity, which in itself will become a niche which only a few will want to experience.
Right.
And the social media will become, and I see, if I were to take the arc of history, where social media or content will evolve is there will be a lot of content, majority of which will be created by AI,
Right.
using human prompts,
Right.
and they'll come to AI prompts creating AI content.
Makes sense.
A small minority over increasing time will be made by humans. So now you will have labels saying content used AI, made by AI.
Right.
Over a period of time, and let's say 20 years from now, you'll have very small content which will be labeled as made by humans, which become very precious. That, hey, this is actually made by humans. So you will create a premium on that content.
Makes a lot
So
of sense.
human-led experiences, human-led content will become a premium. And then content which is long form
Yeah.
will again catch a premium. That somebody has the audacity to spend money and invest time and effort and money and resources to create something long form, knowing that majority of the content users will not want to consume it.
Makes a lot of sense.
So that, I think, will create this dumbbell approach, with one dumbbell being extremely heavy, which is the
Right.
short form content made by AI, and another end of the dumbbell which is extremely small but more premium, which will balance, the premiumness will balance the weight of the dumbbell. Otherwise, you'll have a very skewed dumbbell which is AI generated content being so heavy that nobody cares about the short form, or the long form content which is very short in length.
No, that's fantastic, right? Because this is giving us a glimpse into the future of how conversations will evolve, how interactions will evolve on social media platforms and beyond. You know, recently there was Operation Sindoor that happened between India and Pakistan, right? So India launched 30 counter strikes, and in that, in one of the summarizing points that was later debriefed, it was mentioned that about 15% of the time of the armed forces went into tackling fake narratives, which was like, wow. I mean, for me, the world has shifted so significantly from, a leader from armed forces coming on to debrief and stating a point like this, which means that AI would again be utilized to distinguish between those two data points and very clearly labeling out that this is AI generated, so that those fake narratives can be handled much better. I'm assuming that there's a lot of work going on in that space as well. Some of the startups that I know have started to tackle this to create those ethical AI guardrails as well. But coming to the next point, right? You've dealt with a lot of customer experiences, across your journey over the years, right? Over the last couple of decades or more. So in that journey and looking at customer experience holistically today, how do you think that will evolve in the future? What's the future of customer experience going to look like?
So today I'm working with a startup called EnableX. We in fact work with large brands and enterprises, including startups, to create customer journeys.
Right.
Now, what we are increasingly finding is a lot of the customers and enterprises are coming to us saying, hey, I want to use AI.
Right.
It's a very generic statement.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that means because the flavor of the month, but it's a true flavor. It's not, I don't believe in that AI is ephemeral, like a lot of other trends that came and went.
Right.
I think it's here to stay. It's just that the interpretation of what it means for you as a customer, as an enterprise or as a brand, and what it means for your end customer, that interpretation will keep evolving and changing. And let me exemplify. I don't want to give motherhood statements. You are a large e-commerce platform.
Right.
You have customers pinging you, your customer desk every day. Where's my order? Do you have this SKU, this size of this color, blah, blah, blah. You have so many questions. This is current customers. You have a lot of prospects coming to your website saying, hey, I want to know if blah, blah. Today, what will happen is you used to have a lot of humans answering them en masse. Then you say, you know what, I can create an AI chatbot that can answer all the questions. Great example, Klarna. Klarna came in and wrote this entire thesis that, you know what, we are going to fire most of our customer support. 50% of customer support is being fired. We have evolved a native AI stack that will solve for all these problems. We've connected disparate data sources because data is the key foundation on which AI sits. We have done all the hard work, everything. The whole headlines came in all over the world. Customer support is dead. Teleperformance kind of companies will be over and done with. Blah, 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 blah. Less than a year later, they've come back saying we are rehiring half of those people we fired because it's really not working out because people want to talk to people.
Exactly.
Essentially, what it tells you is human nature will remain the same. End of the day, when I have to outsource a decision to you, I cannot let the AI be accountable. I want to choke some human's neck. You said this to me. I want to hold you accountable. Because you cannot dissociate yourself saying, oh, my agent said this to you.
Right.
Not me. No. Your agent is created by your company.
Right.
You are accountable for the answer they gave. If the answer is wrong, I'm holding you as a human. So when strategic decisions are taken,
Right.
a human has to be in the loop.
Makes a lot of sense.
Because humans will always trust another human. There will be a mild distrust, which may be high distrust today,
Right.
which because AI will evolve and compare, you will still have a mild level of distrust going forward. And you will know, has a human being actually blessed this answer?
Makes a lot of sense.
Maybe not all the answers, but the important ones, you want someone to say, this is what we believe is right. Now I'll give it further. When you, like, take an example today, you're talking to your bank. You go to the website and you chat with the AI chatbot. You get some answers from them. You say, no, not yet. I need to know more.
Right.
At some point in time, the AI will say, I don't know the answer to this.
Right.
The AI will have to get a human in the loop. That used to be 50%, is becoming 30%, may become 20%. But there will be maybe 10, maybe 4%, maybe 2%. But there will be a percentage in that CX journey where a human will be in the loop.
Right.
When you have a premium member, let's say you're a large 5-star hotel and
Right.
you have a Hilton Honors member.
Right.
You will not tell your Hilton Honors member to go and talk to an AI chatbot. You want to give them prime customer experience. You say,
Right.
dude,
And
I'm here for you. I will answer any question you have in real time. And I will solve it for you. I will not tell an AI chatbot to solve it for you.
Makes a lot of sense.
So there will always be a segment of customers. There will always be a percentage of customer queries that an AI bot may or may not be able to solve. And even if they solve it,
Right.
the customer will want to know whether a human has blessed the answer, because your output of the AI bot is an input to my decision to something else.
Makes a lot of sense.
If there is an error rate here, that error rate compounds. Imagine one AI chatbot gives an error rate of 0.1, gives an input to the other AI agent, which then becomes 0.5, which becomes an input to a third AI agent, becomes 0.10, like 1%.
Right.
You can see the compound impact of that one error answer.
Exactly.
And that you will not know till the output finally comes to the end customer. He'll say, dude, this is not what I wanted at all.
Yep. And the self-learning mechanism
This is
faster.
the Chinese whisper, right?
Exactly.
One small error compounds and you have some other answer at the end. And this is the danger of AI. And while AI is improving, can we say AI is 100% right in 100% of the cases? Not in the foreseeable future. I can't forecast the future, because if I could, I would be a very rich person today.
No fear. That's amazing. In fact, love the whole compounding perspective as well, because majority of these algorithms are self-learning and self-evolving mechanisms, right? And by the time you realize the circle has been completed, it's already spent so much of time in relearning from existing answers which it perceived to be correct.
Yeah.
And then the whole basis of the next set of questions and answers gets skewed as well again, right? So fantastic point on the future of customer experience, and the fact that that you highlighted is the trust, premiumness of conversations, and empathy, human empathy will always be more premium as an experience to any kind of a customer. So that's why you'll always need a human in the loop for customer interactions, for premiumness to that conversation, to bring that in. Fantastic. Very quick another one, right? Arvi, you have been at the, you've been involved in the India-Singapore corridor for a while now, and you've been a prime example of someone who has built out an ecosystem in both the ecosystems, right? Build your own credibility in both the ecosystems. A lot of entrepreneurs from India want to be in Singapore and vice versa as well, to tap into the Indian market. What is your perspective or suggestions to or feedback to them?
So one of the things, what I see Indian founders may or may not, a lot of them have already realized, but there are still a lot of startups in India who create, who only look at India as a market and or look at US as a market, right? And my suggestion to them is, while that is good, also look at Southeast Asia. Not because I'm sitting here and I'm telling this to you. I'm going to give you a very interesting fact. India is multiple states,
Right.
multiple languages, multiple contexts and cultures.
Right.
So it's not a uniform country, right? So if you want to do a B2C play, you have to slightly, make it market specific,
Right.
to make it relevant culturally.
Of course, yeah.
If it's a B2C play,
Right.
like even if it's social media,
Right.
If you're doing an enterprise play, maybe it's uniform.
Right.
You just target the top 1,000 enterprise customers. But if it's slightly more B2C in nature, you need to know where are the premium customers in India sitting, and they're sitting in X number of cities, and it's a X number of households who can spend Y dollars a month, which is actually a very small number, which we have validated across. You can look at any VC deck in India now, they have come across saying, boss, India is not that, it's a large country with a lot of people, but the number of people who can spend $10,000 a year on discretionary spend is much smaller number.
Right.
You take that to Southeast Asia and you take that percentage of people who can spend the same amount of money in Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and you will come to a number which is close to India. And it's only 5 markets. Think of it as 5 different states of India.
Right, exactly.
And you're like, oh, I can actually create another India by tapping into Southeast Asia. Obviously, it is slightly more complex than India because now you have different countries and hence different regulations, etc. So market entry has to be thought through for each market.
Right.
But it is closer to India.
Makes a lot of sense.
There's a lot of cultural connect between the 2 markets, Southeast Asia and India. You will find a lot of Indians living and working in these markets as well. So for you to create, and it is much cheaper than going to the US. So for you to make a market entry and test the hypothesis of your product is very viable.
Makes a lot of sense.
So I would say give it a thought. Don't skip it because you think of India, Southeast Asia, oh, Thailand is for, fun and frolic. Indonesia, who knows what it is. Philippines, it's a cheap, it's a poor country compared to India. Singapore, extremely expensive, I don't know, and it's very small population. If you have that generalization, I think that's probably the wrong way of looking at this market.
You're typecasting it too much, right, to be honest.
But that is the general perception. If you're a young founder and you're starting something, you will not think of SCA.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. So that's amazing perspective. So people who are listening to him know this for a fact that there's a lot of scope out here, and you can relook at these 5 markets as a mini India of sorts, or equivalent to India itself, but different regulations, but it's very solvable, right? And huge market is happening to as well. Thank you so much, Elvi, for this. Very, very quick question. Any person living or deceased who you take inspiration from? A massive inspiration or most inspiration from?
So, one of the things that I have been asked this question, who are your heroes in life? And it's a very difficult question to answer because your heroes change.
Right.
I love to read. And so, one thing I realized is the people I appreciate more are the people who help me understand things which are completely out of my realm of understanding. Hence, it is deep science. I'm not a physicist or a mathematician, right? I'm a straight-up business guy like you and solving way simpler problems that they are solving. So, Richard Feynman is, I would call him a hero or an inspiration. Amazing. Like the things that he has, how he has done in life and the way he explains things. That part I love. Carl Sagan, big fan.
Amazing.
Big fan, right? He has brought the universe and because if Carl Sagan did not only just talk about the explaining in English what science and astronomy means.
Right.
He obviously dumbed it down to people like even I can understand. But for me, the question is, once he explains it to you, the second order effect of that is you realize your place on Earth, and then you realize Earth's place in the universe, and then in the galaxy, and in the universe, like where we sit. Like if you are a pale blue dot, which is what the famous quote by Carl said. Like, you're insignificant.
Yeah.
So if you go to connect disparate conversations you may have had or disparate things you've read, these people inspire me to think out of the box and out of my whatever naturally would have thought of. So
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and in fact, fantastic to bring humility and perspective into place, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. One last question for you. You've also been consuming a lot of podcasts, right? A lot of content. Can you talk about maybe 1, 2, or 3 top podcasts or top content forms that you really like?
So in our conversation, I said like the Indian podcast that I really like is the Seen and the Unseen by Amit Verma. I love how it's very, very long format. So kudos and patience and bladder to him to 6 hours with somebody else. I'm sure they're taking a lot of breaks and editing it, but 6 hours to have a conversation with somebody requires energy. And how deep they go and how thought-provoking those conversations are is amazing. I love history. I mean, I realized when I was a kid, I hated history because it was rote learning.
Right.
Tell me this date what happened. I'm like, you're not really teaching me anything. You're just asking me to read and learn something.
Right.
But now I've been consuming a lot more on history. So there's a podcast called The Great Dictator.
Okay.
Or the Greatest Dictator, something like that. I'll give you the name. And it goes into Idi Amin, Hitler, Stalin. I'm just listening one on Che Guevara, and so it's just interesting to understand where they came. All of them start with, okay, who were they as a child? Why did they become the person they became? And hence why, so when you see, because we know what they did, but why did they do that?
Makes a lot of sense.
That's more important, because what they did is the way we would taught history.
Right.
He did this at this time.
Right.
But I don't care. I want to know why he ended up being Hitler.
What was exactly going on?
What made him Hitler?
Yeah.
there has to be some context to someone becoming and thinking that way that he is right. Because in his life, in his mind, he's right.
Right.
In our minds, in hindsight, he was wrong.
Right.
And he was evil. But in his time, a lot of people thought he's right. Yeah. People voted him. So why? Why did that happen? And if you can understand the why, you can see today's right-wing movement in various parts of the world. You can understand the context of why it's happening again.
Exactly.
Why did the genocide happen? Then you will say, whoa, it's so terrible what he did, right?
Right.
Never happen again. How can humans allow it to happen? Dude, it's happening again in our time.
Yeah.
What are we doing about it? But why is it happening again? And the same thing, the tables have reversed. The people who were castigated by Hitler are the ones who are probably perpetrating some of it. Depending on your political spectrum, you will say they are also doing something similar.
Right.
Another sector. Again, for me, history podcasts are the ones which I find grip me a lot.
Makes a lot of sense. History repeats itself, and you did mention this in our conversation beyond the recording as well about intrinsic motivations. So this podcast, I'm assuming, also gives you a perspective about the intrinsic motivation behind a lot of actions that are being taken. The so-called leaders who instigate such actions,
Yep.
right? So it gives you a lot of perspective. Thank you so much. That's phenomenal. I'm going to definitely go and check that out because that's very inspiring for me as well to get into the human emotions, human intrinsic motivations, and understand how things happen the way they happen. So thank you so much again for taking your time. And I'm looking forward to hosting you in India as well over a full-fledged podcast.
Yes,
where we
nothing
get
like a deeper conversation.
Exactly.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's signing off from Singapore. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.